Okay, you are not going to believe what just happened on live television, because this wasn't just another press appearance. This wasn't another routine Fox News softball interview. This was the moment when Karoline Leavitt, yes, Trump's own spokesperson, accidentally said the quiet part out loud. And if you were paying attention, you could almost feel the tension ripple through the screen. For years, the script has been airtight. Total loyalty, total control, total message discipline. But Live TV doesn't always cooperate, and when Leavitt tried to defend Trump's latest move, something slipped. A detail, a contradiction, a truth that didn't line up with the carefully polished narrative, and suddenly the body language changed, the tone shifted. You could practically hear the phones buzzing behind the scenes. Because here's the thing about political spin, it works until it doesn't. And when the narrative cracks even for a second, it exposes something much bigger than a bad soundbite. It exposes the pressure, the panic, the fear of losing control of the story. So tonight, we're breaking down exactly what Karoline Leavitt said, why it matters, and why this moment reportedly left Trump furious. Not because the media attacked him, not because the opposition criticized him, but because someone inside his own circle let reality slip through on live television. Let's get into it.
Governor Walz is completely incompetent. He always has been, and President Trump has long called him out for his incompetence and his poor leadership in the great state of Minnesota. I want to commend Nick Shirley for his incredible video in Real Journalism that went viral this past week. He epitomizes what new media looks like, and that's exactly why we at the White House, under President Trump's direction, have embraced new media journalists like Nick Shirley. We've welcomed them in to the White House press pool. We invited Nick Shirley to brief the President of the United States at an Antifa roundtable earlier this year. And this fraud in Governor Walz's state in Minnesota is something the Trump administration has been working on since day one. And since Nick Shirley's journalism really brought this issue further to light, we have surged resources across the board to the state. So I want your audience to understand this is a top priority for the administration. The Department of Justice, as we speak, is continuing to execute search warrants and subpoenas. People will be in handcuffs as a result of the fraud that Governor Walz has allowed to occur for many, many years. The Department of Homeland Security is conducting door-to-door investigations on the ground at potential fraud sites, and they're also, of course, conducting continued deportations of illegal aliens in Minnesota's communities. We're also not afraid to use denaturalization. That's a tool at the President and the Secretary of State's disposal, and it's one this administration has previously used before. I know the Health and Human Services Department has also announced we are cutting off all child care funding to the state of Minnesota until we get to the bottom of this fraud. The Department of Labor is investigating their unemployment insurance program. The Department of USDA Agriculture Secretary Rollins weeks ago sent a letter to Governor Walz demanding he turn over every single name of SNAP recipients on the books in Minnesota. And the Minnesota Attorney General actually sued the Trump administration for that. What are they hiding? Our entire administration is working around the clock to get to the bottom of it, and President Trump is not going to let Governor Walz off the hook.
So, Caroline, just very quickly to clarify, you covered a lot there, but you mentioned the denaturalization. House Majority Whip Tom Emmer, a congressman from Minnesota, has called for all of the Somalis that are convicted of fraud to have their citizenship revoked. We know so far, according to Pam Bondi, that 98 of the people charged, 85 are of Somali descent. Does President Trump want those Somalis to have their citizenship revoked if convicted of fraud?
Absolutely. And it's something the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of State is currently looking at right now. It's something this administration has already done. And we know that there are liberal activist judges across the country who will try to block and tackle this administration from pursuing justice at every turn. But that's not going to stop the president and his entire cabinet by acting on behalf of law-abiding, tax-paying citizens in the state of Minnesota and in states across the country who have been ripped off by people who abused our immigration system, came to our country, do not love our country or respect our values, and now have been ripping off and stealing money from law-abiding Americans. This administration is not going to tolerate it. And again, this is a whole of government effort. We've surged resources. As you pointed out, the Department of Justice has already charged and prosecuted nearly 100 people. In fact, some of the buildings and some of the sites that Nick Shirley exposed in that video are under current investigation by the Department of Justice. Texas. One of those sites, the Midway building, resulted in 13 defendants already being charged earlier this year under the leadership of our Attorney General and President Trump. So that is definitely going to continue.
Karoline, to wrap up this topic, it's a hot one right now, of course, especially on social media, people following it. We're so happy to hear the pausing of those payments to the child care facilities in Minnesota as all this is sorted out. Are other states on your radar? There's been a lot of rumblings about similar things happening in other states, Ohio also being mentioned. What's next, and what other states are you going to be looking at shortly?
Oh, yes. Right now, Minnesota is at the top of the list, but we know there has been massive fraud in blue states across this country. Look at California, look at New York. These states will all be under investigation and consideration as far as this administration is concerned. And again, just to remind your audience, cutting waste, fraud, and abuse from the federal bureaucracy is something that this president and administration has been focused on from day one. Look at USAID. It was a corrupt program that this administration shut down at the Department of State to save the American taxpayer money. And so we're not going to stop doing that. And anybody who has been ripping off American taxpayers will be held to the fullest extent of the law as long as this president is in charge.
Karoline, moving on just a little bit, there are a list of accomplishments by the president so far that really go beyond a list. It's just everywhere in the country. But on the wall over here we have, illegal border crossings. Basically, the border is closed. The GDP has grown. Inflation has gone down. Of course, they passed the big, beautiful bill. And then brokering peace around the world, two big ones, obviously, Israel and Iran. And, of course, the ending of DEI and federal programs. When I look at this list, the one thing I see is that only one of them is codified in legislation. President Trump can't do all this on his own, but he's kind of doing it on his own. Moving into 2060, expect to get any help from Congress?
Well, the president has a great relationship with Congress. He has a great working relationship with Speaker Johnson, Senate Majority Leader Thune. The president's been very clear he wants to do away with the filibuster so Republicans can really play tough and smart and pass as much good legislation ahead of the midterms, but over the course of the president's next 3 years in office so we can truly and fully save America before President Trump departs in 2028. But as for the next year, the American people have so much to look forward to. The president will continue to build off of his historic accomplishments. The border will continue to stay shut. Mass deportations will continue. The largest tax cuts in American history for middle-class Americans that President Trump signed into law last year will be going into effect this year. So hardworking Americans will start to see that money going back into their pockets. We know core inflation right now is at a 5-year record low. The full weight of President Trump's economic agenda, everything that he and his economic team have been doing over the course of the last year is really going to come to fruition this year. And I think you're going to see an economic boom. You're going to continue to see a crackdown on crime in states across the country. The president is just laser focused around the clock. And I've seen this firsthand. It's really remarkable how hard he works to make our country safer and more prosperous. And I think the best is yet to come in 2026.
And here's the bottom line. When the people closest to power start slipping, even just a little, that's when you know the pressure is real. Not when critics speak, not when the media pushes back, but when someone inside the operation cracks the narrative on live television. Because this isn't just about Karoline Leavitt, it's about a system built on total message control. A system where loyalty is everything and deviation, even accidental deviation, is dangerous. When the script falters, even for a moment, it reveals something deeper, insecurity. And if reports are true that Trump was furious after this appearance, that tells you everything. It wasn't the opposition exposing him. It wasn't a hostile interviewer. It was his own spokesperson letting reality slip through the cracks. That's the thing about truth. You can manage it, spin it, delay it, but you can't fully suppress it forever. So the real question isn't whether this was a bad TV moment. The real question is, what happens when the cracks get wider? If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure you like the video so more people see it. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think this was a harmless slip or something bigger? And don't forget to subscribe if you want more deep dives like this. Because the story isn't over, not even close.